Thank you. Right. Hopefully everyone can see this, and we're going to go through it again for those that weren't here in the slight mishap we just had with Zoom. It's lovely to see people here, and it's fantastic that you've joined to talk to me today. We'll talk together about getting your book stroke lead magnet guide designed and getting your words and your expertise out there to the rest of the world. This is me. I'm Berenice Howard-Smith. I'm a certified font nerd. I have a master's in graphic design. I have some awards, and I have about 20 years worth of experience in publishing. That is publishing in agencies, with publishing houses. I've been contracted into different jobs, lots of NDAs in all of this. So I can talk about some things and not other things. Won some awards. I also do lecturing occasionally for the Masters in Publishing at Anglia Ruskin. And I've designed things for Shakespeare, for Chaucer. I've designed on the AJR My Story, and there's a few books there that you may recognise, including First Aid for Feelings Manual as well. And Thor is on the call today, and Annie was also part of that team, and Annie is here with us today as well. So it's lovely to have them both with us. So content repurposing, it might be that you're here today and you're thinking, well, actually, I don't think I've got a book anyway, in which case I'm going to tell you that you probably have. You've definitely got a lead magnet. You almost certainly will have a guide. You can repurpose blog posts, podcast scripts, notes, guides, talks, anything you've done into some form of book or printed material. It costs you nothing to put that onto KDP if you just wanted to put it together and put it onto Amazon. We'll talk a bit about that later on. But what that then rewards you with is your expertise. You can get that out into the world in a different way. And there's a list of here of some of the things that you could look at if you have a book. So it's not only increasing your knowledge to your audience, but it also gives you something that you can then repurpose again, because books are ever changing. They are printed, but actually you can look at everything inside it in a completely different way. And that's what makes books really, really clever. Plus also you can sniff the pages, which is always very lovely. The thing that I think is important is to build your visual identity though across that, and that's where design is important. If you have branding, then you can bring that into your book, and that's where a designer can really help you, because it may be that your branding was created for your social media, it was created for your website. It then needs to adjust to go into print. So a print designer can adjust the colors and they can put it all into a book so it becomes visually recognizable as your publication. I'm going to cite back here First Aid for Feelings as well, because Thor has done a fantastic job at bringing the branding into the book and the book into the branding, and everything works very seamlessly. We know that that book belongs to Thor, and I think that's really, really good. So the big tip that I can give you is to start at the end, which sounds a bit weird, but start at the end and visualize your book. When I was studying for an Open University degree years and years ago in English literature, because I just love books, if I didn't mention it already, I kept going and looking at all of the graduation ceremonies when it just got a bit too much. I kind of want you to do that if you're thinking about a book. Visualize the book. Think about what it feels like. Think about how it might feel in terms of the cover. Is it a hardback? Is it a paperback? What size is it? Does it need to fit into a bag? Who is your audience here? Make yourself that reader. It will help you to decide what the book should be in terms of its size, in terms of the weight. It will guide the cover. It will guide all of the things that a designer needs to know, or that you need to know to tell your designer. So go through this list and have a little bit of think about what that might be. Get to the end first. Really, really important. And at that point, you can also work out a few things around budgets, because your budget is really important. This is not a cheap process. It's an investment. So these are some of the options. I'm not going to go through everything word by word because it's all fairly self-explanatory, I think, on this. And we can have a chat about it too if you want to go through anything in more detail. What I will say is that I'm mentioning a couple of things, key terms here. One is print on demand. And what print on demand is that somewhere out in the world, somewhere, someone will buy your book. They might buy it from KDP, they might buy it through your website. That means that a printer somewhere near to where that person lives will spring into action. That copy of your book will go onto a printing press with lots and lots of other books, and then it will be published and it will be sent to that person who's bought it. That's print on demand. You're part of a very big machine. And that's great because you're not tripping over lots of books in your house. If you've bought them up front, you've got them somewhere and they are just being printed for you, and that fulfillment is dealt with. So that's what print on demand is, but it does mean you're very hands off. The quality can vary because it's not dealt with in a personal basis, but it does mean it's a lot cheaper. One of the options that I've put on here is a litho or a digital book printer. And that means that you will have an account handler, you will know their name, you will possibly be able to choose your paper, you'll get paper stock sent to you, little samples. You can probably go and look at your book being printed if it's local to you, or at least have a tour around the factory if you wanted to. And you can possibly go and pick your copies of your book up. You might get a fulfillment service. That depends on the person, the firm that you choose, but it's more personal, but you pay more for that. You can also do special finishes. So if you wanted to put foil on your cover, then you could do that too. So you've got lots of options. These are the most common ones that you can find. There are others available too. Some of those printers, Langham Press Clays, do have fulfillment, and I think Book Print do as well. So I can have a shop around with that. And it's great if you want copies of your book up front. So that's some of the options available. And if you've got any questions about those, then come and have a chat with me. The one other thing I want to tell you is that Ingram Spark is not a bookshop. So if you want to get your book into a bookshop, and I've put a little proviso here about that as well, you may or you may not want to, it's a lot of energy, you will need to stock your book with Ingram Spark. If you went to your local bookshop and said, can you stock my book from Amazon? It's like telling Hatchards to buy from Waterstones. They are rivals. And I think that's a really important point that people don't always understand. Ingram Spark is a supplier, not a bookstore. And that's why it's there. And it's why you want to be with them if you want to put your book into libraries. So how do you fund all of this? If you don't have a rich, great auntie, personal savings, then you have to look at other aspects, other ways to do it. Fund it through your business. You could look at things like sponsorship, partnership. Dyslexia Magazine and Arts Council have got really good ideas around funding. Dyslexia is a magazine predominantly for female writers, but there is stuff in there that other people can kind of attach onto and just explore in terms of competitions and prizes. It's a lot of energy to do that, I will say. No guarantee you're going to win. You can do pre-orders via your website, email list, and drive that through social media. And you can crowdfund. And a lot of the things around crowdfunding, around sample copies, around dedications, are kind of relevant really to everything else on this list. People need to know that your book is worth investing in, whether you put that on your website, whether you do that on social media. You need to show that it is actually a real live thing. So that's where design can really help you, because you can do a sample chapter that you could give away. You can do the cover. People actually know that it really exists, because it's really difficult, I think, particularly with AI around, to make sure that something is a real dead cert, because it's a lot of time and effort for people to go through and look for things on crowdfunding. Giving you a couple of examples here on the crowdfunder website, it's always worth having a little poke about that and see what you can find, because it gives you some really good ideas. So what does a book designer do? A lot. There's more than design. It's more than just the pages. It's the cover. It's also investing in some of the tech. And often I find that I'm a sounding board as well for clients. They'll come to me with a question about something around the construction of a book. I had a conversation yesterday with somebody who has a introductory guide for their book that sits separately, and we've come to the conclusion it should be in all of her books that go within that series. It just makes sense from the point of view of how the reader operates. And it comes from my lived experience of working in publishing for so long. So sometimes designers can come up with different ways to solve a problem that you may not see yourself as an author or a business owner because you're too close to the project, as well as everything else on here too. There's the technical knowledge and there's also the typography. What makes good design? Copyright, ISBNs, how do you get them? Where do you get them from? Ideally, your book designer should have some awareness of all of those as well, and also have experience of book design too, because it's very different to other areas of design. I'm not going to go too much on covers because covers is its own talk. It's a massive topic. And I could be here all day talking about book covers, but your cover has 6 seconds. That's it. If people don't respond to it, they'll move to the next one. Covers also solve problems as well because they can be really expensive. If you want a bespoke illustrator, that can be a lot of money. If you look at stock illustrations on platforms like Getty, there's Shutterstock, things like that, then they can be adapted. It might be something from within the cover, within the book itself, that springs to mind and goes, that could make a really good cover. The ADR series I wanted just to bring up here to show you because that particular topic, that series was produced at the start of the pandemic. The photograph here of Hannah was taken by her daughter on an iPhone, and she'd never really used her iPhone to take a photograph before, but we couldn't do it in any other way because of social distancing, and all the people who were part of this book series incredibly vulnerable. And I think it's one of the loveliest covers that I've ever done because we had to instruct her. And I had really no part in that photograph at all, apart from this is how you use an iPhone. So sometimes covers can navigate issues around budget and can actually be better for the fact that they've got a challenge around them. So yeah, you'll cover 6 seconds to do an awful lot of work. And I've given you some tips just here on what a cover does and why it's important. And I would also say as well, AI factors into this too. AI has some very, very strong tells on covers these days. There's lots of little kind of icons and gold adornments and things like that, everything in caps. And the images are often very flat too. Just be very wary of AI because readers know about it, designers know about it. It's great to use sometimes as a brief if you can't get your thoughts together, but budget always comes into this as well. What AI makes easy isn't always illegal as well. There's only one LMM that actually has legal copyright on images at the moment, and that's none of the real popular ones that you might want to use. So just ask me about that if you're tempted. So finding the right design model for you. There's lots of different ways to do design. In an ideal world, you do it all yourself and with a designer, and we'd get everything done. I would get all of the pages sorted out for you. The most common one that I work on is hybrid. So that's where the author will have some technical ability and will want to do part of it themselves. Usually that's around distribution, social media, that area. They're all areas that I can feed into as well. You could also have an audit as well. There's a book that I put on one of the previous slides with Susanna Ray on framework thinking that you may know her from other networks. And it's a really, really good book. She just wanted a peer review of the design inside, and I focused on the cover. So there's lots of ways to bring a designer in. It isn't just full complete service, which can be quite prohibitive on cost. It's always worth having a chat with a designer and going, look, I've got this much budget, what can you do with me? And let's try and work something out just to make your book better than what it might be had you been struggling with Canva or something like that. I think it's really important to focus your energy wisely on the areas that you feel you can do and to be honest about your technical and design abilities. And that's okay. That's my job, to be the designer, and you might have other things that you want to focus on, like growing the list of your clients and getting your distribution sorted out. This might be handy. I'm not going to go through all of this. You can see it on the screen and the slides will be available for you, but questions I ask my clients, things that you might want to think about if you're looking at a book, and they're all just really useful prompts. And it's the part that if someone comes to me and says, I want to produce a book, I don't know anything, this is a really good way to work through it, and we'll do it together. They might want to sit and do it over a cup of tea quietly, but it's just really good prompts around How do you want to start your book? What is it going to look like? Kind of feeds into that start at the end. What are you envisioning here? And what do you think you want to give to your readers as well? This is your ideal workflow. I'm not going to go through every point. You can see them here, only to say that book in your crew as soon as you know who you want to use. I'm booking for October at the moment, so make sure you get people in really, really early, get them nailed down, get them briefed. Understand what your editors do and what your proofreader does as well. That's really important. People can get proofreading and editing a little bit muddled up. There's copy editors, there's development editors. Work out what that is. And with your proof stages, when you come to design, that's not the time to rewrite your book. I'm the most expensive person to reversion your book for you, because that affects the number of proofs you have after that. So with your proof stages, your first proof has the most things on. Your second proof and your third proof, you're starting to just bring it down because you're checking what's been done before. So you're making it so that when you get to your fourth proof, the one that goes to press, it's clean and it's done. If at any point in that process you need to change the brief and the size, that creates a cost and a time implication. So be really careful around things like that, and keep in touch with your designer and listen to those implications. The cause and effect can be quite huge at that point. How to find a designer? You can ask me. I can also tell you that the Alliance of Independent Authors is really good too. I'm one of their partner members. That means that I'm checked every year around pricing and my workflow, my terms and conditions and my contracts, to make sure that I'm an endorsed member, and everyone else gets that too. So they're really, really good. They've got a great watchdog for what they do. You can ask an author, you can look on social media. I would be wary of platforms because you may not have that direct contact. If you're new to doing all of this, I'd just be cautious, because you may need a bit more help. You might need to jump on a Zoom call when you want to. You may want to have direct email contact, and you don't get that with the platform. And they also charge commissions. I've actually recently stepped away from Readsy for lots of complicated reasons I won't go into here, but my values were compromised, and I think that's true on a lot of these sites. They tend to be aimed at the client and not always at the designer or the supplier, and so people tend to leave, and there's quite a high turnover, so you may not get the same designer that you had before. And I've given you some questions as well around what to ask your designer as well. Ideally, they want to be using InDesign. Adobe is still, there's lots of stuff on threads and social media about Adobe and people complaining. I still use it. I think it's the best software out there for book design by a long stretch. Affinity isn't bad. It's been taken over by Canva. Canva is not a book design tool. If you approach a book designer approaches you and they can do it on Canva, I'd just be very, 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 very wary about that. It doesn't have the capabilities to handle typography in the way that InDesign does. And avoid pitches as well. You all know that, but designers are worth paying. It's like going into a cafe, ordering 5 meals and only paying for one. But I'm happy to do a paid sample for anybody as well. But yeah, avoid the pitches. We're all worth paying for, all of us in the room. So what do we deliver? We deliver your PDF files. We can deliver source files as well. So source files means the InDesign files. You may not need to open them ever, but you've got them if you wanted to then carry that work on with a different designer in years to come. I send them, I prefer to send them to my clients. Not all designers do. You won't get your fonts because fonts are licensed to individual users. So I have my fonts, you would have yours, but I can tell you what they are if you wanted to use them. But you don't necessarily need to have that. But you should have a whole suite of print ready files ready to go out onto KDP, Ingram Spark, your printer. They might be different ones because all the platforms have different versions and different requirements of print, which is really, really, really annoying. It's just the way that it goes. It's a business model. And also optional as well. I do websites and I do logos and branding. I also can speak about design as well. I've launched a couple of my self-publishing clients' books as well and spoke for them too. I'm quite happy to do that. That's not something most designers do, but you could always ask if you wanted to, because design is part of the story. For me, it's an investment for my clients, but it's part of the whole book telling story, and it should be delivered thoughtfully and have evidence as well. And that's another thing I think is important with designers. Make sure that they've got some storytelling for you, and they can talk to you about their process as well, and how do they design a book. That will get you out of that situation when you're not sure if someone is using AI or not as well. It should be a human story. And that is the end of the presentation that I've done for you today. I just want to let you know that I have a course which covers all of this in loads more detail. This is the pitch. And you can join that if you want to. There's a discount code here, and it just goes through everything in a little bit more detail, from why you want to be an author, how to create some words, getting over that procrastination, and all the way through to the differences between marketing, promotion, distribution models, and what you might want to do next, and a little bit about design and editing as well. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.